I'm Stacy.
Hey, I'm Steph,
Welcome to Harnessing Your Power.
where we discuss everyday topics to break through the stigma and harness our power through self-mastery.
Tune in every Tuesday to join us in conversation as we dig deep into our minds and get closer and closer to our highest self.
Hi, guys.
Hey, thanks for joining.
Wow, I'm so excited. Well, let me see if there's anybody else I should send it to, and then we can just go ahead and get started.
Cool. How's your day going, Steph?
It's going absolutely amazing. Oh, I accidentally paused myself. Absolutely amazing. I have been spending a lot of time with my sister because she had her babies. How is your day going?
Oh, that's super exciting. I saw her post, and honestly, newborn babies just bring happiness. How can you not?
So much.
Yeah. My day's been good, though. It's been so busy. Before I knew it, it was like 2 hours before this live. And I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta get ready.
I feel like it always sneaks up, but in a good way.
Yeah, for sure. Hi, thank
Hi.
you for joining.
All right, cool. So we can just go ahead and get started because I'm really excited about today's topic. So, I know, hold on, let me just pull up. I have like a little notepad on my, all right, cool. So, as you guys know, or whoever's here consistently, Stacy and I always like to start these lives off with a conversational question. Dimes is here. Hi. With a conversational question so that we can get feedback from you guys. So today's question and today's topic, as you guys can already see, is self-care. So what does self-care mean to you, and how important, I forgot how I worded it earlier, how important do you feel like it is for showing up as your best self? Is that how that was going to be worded?
Yeah. So first, like, what is self-care to you? And then how important is prioritizing it to be able to show up as your best self? Ooh, Dime said watering your own seed.
Dimes always has some.
Yeah, but it makes sense. You know, you hear that all the time, that you can't pour into other people until you pour into yourself. And it's kind of like that thing they say on the airplanes. Oh, if an oxygen mask drops, before you put on someone else's mask, put on your own. And I think that's the same thing with self-care. If you're not caring for yourself, can you care for other people?
I want to see if anybody else shoots any answers to what self-care actually means to you. Like, watering your own seed, but what do you do for self-care? Like, what is your go-to for self-care? And it could be, differently. I'm adjusting today. I'm actually I'm in the closet.
Gotta do what we gotta do. We have to be here every week. Yeah. Let's see if anyone else answers. It looks like some people are just joining. So we just asked, what is self-care to you? What does self-care look like for you? And how important is it in your life? Yes, please.
I love it. She says so. Nourishing yourself, working out, spa night, recharging alone so you can be present for others. I love that. A full day to myself where I do everything that makes me feel good inside and out.
Yes.
PD, facials, taking a walk, meditation. Yes. Goes hand in hand with last week's topic.
It does. Meditation, major key.
Major. PD, massage, meditation, alone time. Massage, yes. What does self-care look like for you, Stacy?
Oh, it's interesting. Wait, first Naya said it's important journaling, getting your nails done, nice long showers, and having a good amount of peace so you can give your full energy to everyone else. Yes, definitely journaling. So I feel like self-care is actually deeply incorporated in my life at this point. And I feel like self-care can look different on every different day. I definitely agree with a lot of people when they said, you know, journaling, meditating, a long shower. I always want to save water, but oof, I love a long shower. And, you know, doing the things that make you feel good. And like Naya said, to make sure that you keep your peace inside. So for me, I feel like there's two main different ways that I do self-care. Either, I guess what you might call like maintenance self-care, when, you know, I'm going through a period of time where I'm really on top of everything I need to do and I want to stay feeling great. So I make sure to stay doing some things to keep myself peaceful and motivated and charged up. And then I also feel like there's the other side of self-care where when I might be feeling down or I might be in a little bit of a funk or whatever it is, and I do some extra type of self-care to really bring myself up. But honestly, it's like everyone said, it's all those little things. My favorite form of self-care actually is going outside. I love the outdoors. I am obsessed with sunlight and fresh air. You see me drop on the chat pretty much every single day that I'm grateful for sunlight. I have to live somewhere where there's sun. And I'm super grateful that I have a dog that I have to take outside all day long. So to be honest, my favorite moments of self-care throughout the day are those walks with my dog. Because it's a chance that I'm forced to get outside and get away from the computer and the phone and just take that moment with myself. But what about you, Steph? What does self-care look like for you?
So I actually saw that Dime said self-care is definitely a recharge, reset type of thing. And while I feel like yes, I like to think of, so I had actually looked up the definition of self-care. I feel like you normally do. Did you look it up this time around?
I didn't. And you know what? I feel like actually I do look up the definitions a lot, but I feel like every time I don't, you do. We're always on it.
Yes. Okay, cool. So I thought it was very interesting that a lot of people are saying reset, recharge, but the definition of self-care, there's two. One is the practice of taking action to preserve or improve one's own health. And the second one is the practice of taking an active role in protecting one's own well-being and happiness, and particularly during periods or times of stress. But I feel like for me, something that I've been learning to do, hasn't always been the case, is prioritizing self-care even when you're not necessarily in that period of stress, or not necessarily needing not needing the reset, but knowing that you should recharge to make sure that you're at your top best self always. So I feel like for me, it's knowing where you're at and knowing what you need. And I feel like that's not always the easiest thing. But to me, self-care is a lot of the things a lot of people said. I feel like getting my nails done has been something that I didn't know was so important to me until I did it done for a long time. And then I went and I was like, oh no, I needed that. I feel like getting outside is definitely huge. So I love that you said that. I am always grateful for sunlight. And I feel like I can't imagine living anywhere that is not as sunshine state as Florida, or maybe like California. I know you're in California. But now getting to the beach and getting into grounding, I feel like has been something that I have truly just fallen in love with. Doing yoga, feeling out my body, even sometimes like not necessarily, I feel like a lot of the times we look at self-care and we think about being by ourselves, but sometimes taking that time out and really taking that time out to spend with somebody you love, maybe like your family, your partner, but taking that time to give that full attention to them versus, I feel like for me, I do a lot of work a lot. So taking that time out to say, hey, Ruby, I need this amount of time with you, please.
Yeah.
that's also self-care, even though I'm doing it with somebody else, knowing that I need that emotional support from my partner.
Yeah, absolutely. That being said, do you, well, first, I can definitely relate to not always prioritizing self-care when we're feeling good, because you know, if we're in like this grind mode, we're accomplishing so much, we might overlook some of those things. It's definitely easier to know, hey, I probably need to take some time and recharge if we're not feeling good. And that relates to something I want to bring up in a minute, but first, you mentioned even, am I here?
It froze for me a little bit.
Okay, are we back?
You said but first, and then now I hear you loud and clear.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I saw it was paused.
Okay.
So you mentioned even prioritizing self-care moments with other people, and that actually ties into two things I want to talk about. The first thing, especially talking about being in a relationship, I feel like it's really easy to not always prioritize that time to have with each other and to make sure that you are also nourishing your relationship, especially if you're working with your partner or just home around them all the time. But it's different when you actually set aside time to connect and be together, just like you would set aside the time to connect with yourself. So is that something that you do? Do you like schedule self-care time within your day? Do you like schedule different time throughout the week to be with Ruby?
So no, and I don't want to say no because I feel like it's something I've been making a priority more now. But I feel like for a long time, I was just like, I just need to work, like just get stuff done. I did go from a place where I was working a lot, and then I jumped into entrepreneurship. So I went from having multiple jobs to jumping into entrepreneurship. So it was very easy for me to just be like, just work, just keep working. So I feel like I didn't always prioritize self-care. I didn't always prioritize doing things that brought me that peace, because I was just like, oh, get it done now. And I think you had mentioned this so that we can have more time in the future. But then again, what are you doing for yourself now to make sure that you can be good for the future?
Exactly.
I'm going to let you answer first because there's more things I want to touch on, but I feel like it's also a question that we have about lack of self-care.
Yes. So first, about me scheduling it, it's so, honestly, I didn't even think about that until literally this moment, but it's just the alignment. I love this alignment in my life. This week is the first week I literally wrote in my planner different periods of time for self-care and for connecting with my boyfriend. And that is because I realized that yes, I was prioritizing self-care, and yes, I had a daily note to make sure I meditate and stretch every day, but I wasn't doing it every day. And I wasn't doing it because even though it's a priority and I have it right there, I didn't actually set aside the time to do it, because same thing, why am I going to stop and meditate when I have all of this to get done today? But then I was realizing that I still wasn't getting all of this done, and I wasn't seeing the progress I wanted to see, and I wasn't getting accomplishing different goals. And I realized it's because I really wasn't being able to show up as my best self without taking that time aside to care for myself. Especially being on the West Coast and having to wake up super early to get into some training sessions. You know, I don't always have the morning routine I want, because sometimes I literally do wake up and open my laptop within 30 seconds, which is so bad for you mentally and physically, but it's what I need to do right now. So understanding that and realizing that, okay, if that's how I start my day, then I definitely need to prioritize pausing in the middle of the day to meditate or to stretch or to sit on my, whatever I wanted to do in the morning, do that later on. So I actually wrote it in my planner this week, and I did it yesterday. It was like the middle of the day, and I had wrote down at like 12:30 to stretch or meditate. I gave myself the option depending on what I might be feeling in that moment. And I really didn't want to stop what I was doing. I was like in flow of work, but I was like, you know what? let me step back and let me do this. And I actually ended up stretching, meditating, and taking my dog on a walk, all in just 30 minutes. I didn't meditate for too long, I didn't stretch for too long, just a little 30-minute break. And then I came back feeling so refreshed. I was actually working on a paper for school before that, and I was like struggling to get it done. And then as soon as I came back after taking that break, I finished it in like half an hour. So I feel like I didn't even think about that when we talked about this topic until right now. But I feel like that is a perfect example of, yes, prioritizing it, but actually scheduling it in your life. Don't just tell yourself, oh, I need to do this. Actually make the time so you can do it. Because like I said, I've definitely been in a situation where I'm not seeing the progress I want because I'm not caring for myself. So has there been any times, Seth, that you have noticed your lack of self-care hindering what you want to do?
Yes, so much. And I feel like that's why I was so excited about this topic, because I feel like how I said earlier, I went from working so many jobs. Like, I started entrepreneurship while I was still working a lot of jobs. And then I kind of came into the trading world, and it was like everyone was up all the time, just getting into trades. And like, I was just up all the time. And it was very easy for me to be so work focused. And I feel like the biggest time where I saw it, I can see it in my life now still. And not necessarily like all the time, but I can see where it happens when I don't prioritize it. I love seeing the comments, where I prioritize it. But when I had first worked just a lot of jobs, I had 3 different jobs and I had side gigs. And I remember I had a job, like I had a regular like 9 to 5 type schedule. And then I also had some bartending jobs, and I would work till like 3, 4 in the morning, come home by the time I wound down and stuff, and have to be at work super early. So I'd take naps in between jobs. And I really was just all work, no self-care. And taking that time, like 15-minute breakout to take that nap, yes, while it was kind of self-care, it was also just, hey, I'm really exhausted and I need to take that. And I would literally wake up with nightmares like in those 15-minute breaks, and it only ever happens to me when I'm not rested at all. And everything else was like not falling. I was still getting stuff done, but I remember going to work and realizing I wasn't being as productive as I was, or getting my stuff done as I was. And then getting into the entrepreneurship world where you're literally in charge of your damn self, I feel like was the same thing. I was like, okay, just work. And I'd stay up to like 4 or 5 in the morning and not get a lot of rest, and just focus on, okay, I need to talk to this person. I need to talk to that person. I need to be on the phone. I need to do this. I need to go out and do this. And I could see myself, yes, I was still showing up, but I wasn't showing up my best me. And I could literally think to myself, wow, if I would have just taken some time to just pause, refresh, refocus, how you were just talking about that before the paper, could I have gotten this done a lot faster? Could I have done a lot more, or could I have done it better? And I mean, I'm a very big procrastinator. And let me not speak that on myself. I have been a big procrastinator in the past, and I feel like, I don't know if I've ever talked about this on a live, or maybe I've just talked to you about it, Stacey, but I had listened to a podcast where they were talking about procrastination and perfectionism are the same thing. And how many times have you sat here? I don't know. Have you considered yourself to be a procrastinator in the past?
Yes. And a perfectionist for sure.
Same. And how many times have you maybe like procrastinated on something, and you, let's say schoolwork, let's just go with that, and you end up getting an A or a B, and you're like, wow, imagine like if I would have actually taken the time to do it, I would have been so much better. So you're giving yourself that validation, and you're like, oh, I would have done more, or I would have been better. So why are we not doing that?
Right.
Progress with procrastination.
Yeah, I think we all are. I think that's something that, we all work on. But exactly, like you said, like, yeah, you're still able to go to work, or you're still able to, like for me with trading, yes, I was still able to tune in to the different sessions and take some trades, but are you really showing up as your best self? Were you giving your full self to your customers when you're bartending? Am I fully understanding the trades I'm getting into if I'm like half asleep and have just been grinding the entire time? I think that self-care is really an underestimated aspect in not just productivity, but like in life, and just being able to not just accomplish everything we want, because it's not just about productivity, but to feel good while we're doing it, to have that peace and to have that happiness. Literally, like, stop and smell the roses, but smell your own roses, and like focus on yourself. And like some people said, that way you can show up fully for others, but also so you can show up fully for yourself, because we don't do self-care just for others, we're doing it for ourselves, and it just has that secondary aspect of, you know, allowing us to be better when we're there for other people. One thing I wanted to bring up was about the different types of self-care. So I actually didn't think about this that much until I was preparing for this live, and I guess it's very common to break up self-care into 5 different main types.
Okay, hold on. Before you get into the different types, I had written down, because you were talking about showing up better for others, and I had written down this quote that I really loved, because I feel like a lot of us neglect self-care because we feel like we have to get all this stuff done, or we need to, like, we're prioritizing work, or we're prioritizing our family or our kids or whatever the case may be. And it said, practicing self-care does not mean you are choosing yourself over your loved one. And in certain cases, you can put prioritizing yourself over your business, your life. It means that you are simply being mindful of your own needs so that you are better and able to support people that you care about. When you take care of yourself, you are not stressed, and you are better able to meet the needs of others. And I feel like we've said that in so many different ways, but taking the guilt out of self-care, I feel like, is huge.
Yes.
I just wanted to stick that in there because I felt like we were kind of touching on that, and I didn't want to let that go. So
yes, no, I love that quote. I actually saw a shirt before that said self-care isn't selfish, and it's not. Dimestick, can you go ahead and repeat that quote?
Yes. So practicing self-care does not mean you are choosing yourself over your loved one. And I mean, in some of our cases, it could be over your business, over, you know, your whatever it is. It means that you are simply being mindful of your own needs so that you are better able to support the people that you care about. When you take care of yourself and are not stressed, you are better able to meet the needs of others. So self-care is caring for those people around you, I feel like.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It definitely is. And that's where I feel like the types of self-care actually made me understand that. So the 5 different types are physical, social, mental, spiritual, and emotional. And I feel like personally, I'm super focused on the emotional part. And I think a lot of things that I do that might even fall into the other types of self-care, I do them for the emotional benefit. But thinking about self-care in those different like buckets is really interesting. And this article actually gave a few prompting questions for each type of self-care. And for physical, the questions are like, are you getting enough sleep? Is your diet fueling your body well? Are you taking charge of your health? And that one alone, I was like, whoa, I think we forget that literally eating is an act of self-care. Yes. I always say food is fuel, and it's actually something that I have been growing through recently, is to make sure that I'm eating enough nutritious food every day. Because if we're hungry, not only are we going to be hangry and irritable, and our mood is going to be, yeah, I'm queen of hangry. But like, our bodily processes slow down, and that's when we're more likely to get sick, and that's when our brain can't even function. And have you ever been so hungry you're like, oh, I can't even think?
Yes.
Or like, if you're so hungry and it's like, oh, what do you want to eat? And you're just like, oh, I don't know. It's because,
everything.
Yeah, because you literally can't think. And I feel like if we're aware of the fact that stuff like eating and sleeping and drinking water and moving our body are acts of self-care, it can kind of change the way we do those things. Because now that I'm like seeing food more as self-care, it's going to inspire me to make sure that I'm eating every day. Because now I'm going to take that moment of not eating every day, eating enough every day. I eat every day, guys. I don't want to scare anyone. I'm definitely eating every day, but I mean eating enough nutritious food. So now when I'm like, oh, I don't have an appetite, or all I want is French fries, which is like where I'm at right now, I'm eating French fries every day. I'm gonna say, okay, wait, maybe I don't have time to go get my nails done today, or maybe I don't have time to take a super long shower. So maybe my self-care for today is literally cooking myself a good meal and allowing that to be my self-care moment. So that was physical. The next type was social self-care. And I really wanted to bring this one talking about. Am I back?
You're back. Okay. Okay, yeah, you're back now.
Okay.
At least from far.
Perfect. So a lot of people mentioned having self-care moments alone, and then we were kind of talking about like the self-care with your partner and like nourishing those type of relationships. But that is actually one huge type of self-care, is the social. And that's not only to make those relationships stronger and nurture those, but it's for yourself. Because we are humans, and humans are social beings, and we need social interaction, and we need to feel others' energy to charge up our own energy. So those questions are you getting enough face-to-face time with your friends? What are you doing to nurture your relationships with friends and family? And yeah, I just love that one, because then that can go to show that, you know, maybe stopping work early to go meet your friends for dinner. You might feel a little guilty that, you know, you're stopping work, but you need that time. You need to do these things. And then the last three was mental self-care, spiritual, and emotional. And I think those are some of the ones that we naturally see as self-care. The mental one is, are you doing proactive things to help you stay mentally healthy and sharp? Spiritual self-care, are you engaging in practices that you find fulfilling? And then the emotional self-care is, do you have healthy ways to process your emotions, and do you incorporate activities into your life that help you feel recharged? So I think those three are some of like the self-care that we naturally think of when we think of self-care, but I definitely wanted to bring up like all five, because now as I'm like reflecting on my own life, it's like, wow, a lot of what we do is self-care. And I feel like we would see that in the other way. Like if you're a mom and you have kids, you know that feeding them is caring for them.
Ooh.
So do we think about that when we feed ourselves?
Yes, yes. And who's on this live? I want to see if there's any mom. I don't think so, but if any mom does watch the recording, when you were talking about caring for your kids versus caring for yourself, like, why do we not look at that as caring for ourselves? Like, this helps me be less hard on myself.
Yes.
She said you onto something. I love it. That literally takes me to that quote we were talking about. If you wrote out a list of all the things you love and all the people that you love, how long would it take to mention yourself, or for you to write down yourself? And I feel like that's exactly what that brought me back to, because with anything, we know we have to put that nurture and care into it, or like listening to yourself. Are we listening to ourselves? If, as a mom, if your child says, hey mom, I need this, you're going to listen to it. Are we listening to ourselves and our bodies? How many times have, like when you're talking about being hangry, why didn't we, you probably felt hungry before you felt hangry. So I thought that was a really good.
Yeah, why didn't we listen to that about ourselves? And honestly, that relates to my day today, because I woke up a little bit late and then I ended up taking a nap too. And I really didn't want to take a nap. I had just bought this yerba mate, and I was like, no, I have too much to do. And then my boyfriend was actually like, you look like you're about to fall asleep. And I was like, I am about to fall asleep. And he was like, then just go sleep. Like, your body is telling you need to go sleep. So why are you going to shove this energy drink down your throat and push yourself to work? Just go sleep and then get the work done later. And I had something scheduled in 45 minutes, so I didn't even have that long to rest. And I ended up taking a 30-minute nap, and now I feel amazing. Like, I don't think I would even be smiling this much on this live if I didn't take that nap. But it goes to show that here we are talking about self-care, and I wasn't even going to listen to myself in that moment. It took someone else being like, hey, listen to yourself for me to actually do that. Why? Why is that?
Katie said, and we tend to self-care when we are falling apart. And that's kind of why I mentioned that in the beginning. Like, why do we only self-care to recharge? And when we were talking about lack of self-care, and I don't want to get too much into burnout because I feel like that's a whole another topic on its own. But I saw another quote as I was getting ready for this. And it says, if you feel burnout setting in, if you feel demoralized and exhausted, it is best for the sake of everyone to withdraw and restore for yourself. So obviously self-care to not let us get to that point of burnout. But why are we not searching for that even when we are? How often have you either yourself or met somebody else that has been feeling that burnout, but we're still so much now in a cycle of wanting to like fix that burnout. And now we're just burning ourselves out even more. And I say that from experience because that's been me very many times. Why is it that we only search for self-care when we're at that point of falling apart? We wait till something's broken. Yes.
Exactly.
But prioritizing that. And I think that goes back to like one of our beginning questions. Do you think you can show up as your best self without prioritizing self-care? And I guess you can, but for how long?
Exactly. Katie said it's about our daily deposits. It's not a one-time fix, but a lifestyle.
I love that.
Exactly. And I feel like some of the times when I was really able to show up as my best self and also feel my best is when I had a regular yoga practice. Dang. There was like a year and a half of my life that I did yoga every single day, sometimes twice a day. And honestly, I achieved so much through that time period, but I also felt my best. And that's because, like Katie said, it was really a lifestyle. I didn't have to write it on my to-do list. It was something I just did because it was such ingrained in my habit. And I'm working to get back there. I'm working to get back to that point because I feel like when we look at our schedule or when we look at our life, some of the first things that we're going to throw away is those self-care practices. When that should be the first thing that we keep.
Yes. And it's interesting that you picked yoga as the time that you were feeling your best self, because I feel like same. And I feel like, did you look at it as self-care when it was an everyday daily habit? Like, did you intentionally look at it and be like, okay, this is my self-care thing for the day?
I don't think so. I don't think so. It was more of like just something I did.
Yes. And knowing that it only takes such short amount of time, like how you said, like those 30 minutes recharged you so much. Why do we look at self-care as something that's going to stop our productivity when it can immediately recharge our productivity?
Exactly.
I wish I could unmute my mic. I have a question, but it's so long to type. Well, type away, Dimes. I want to answer that question.
I know. You got me curious now.
I wish you could unmute your mic too, though. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, if we could have a third person hop in real quick.
Yes. Now I'm just kind of waiting for that question, but hi. Oh, I feel like I have so many questions, and now I just want to wait for Dime's question. But me what?
Oh, love to join this. Yes. Okay, honestly, Steph and I are in the process of thinking about another platform that we could do some other lives on, like some specialty lives on, so we could have some of you join, because some of our frequent viewers have a lot of value. I know you guys have a lot that you could say, and just to be able to engage with you guys. So we are definitely thinking about that, because I would love to have you as a guest, Katie.
Yes, me too. Me too.
Well, while we wait for Dime's question,
Yeah.
hope you are typing it away. So I also wanted to bring up a point about some of the actual like biological benefits of different forms of self-care. And one form of self-care that I think falls into all of the different types is having fun. And that is actually how we came across or decided to do this topic of self-care, because my roommate actually suggested the topic of fun, or having fun, and the importance of that in your life, and like the power that that can bring. But hold that thought, because Dimes just types the question. So she said, how do you forget everything that you're doing to give your full attention to self-care? How do you power down? I feel like it's a work in progress for me to self-care and just be in that moment, maybe she means. And just self-care and not think about everything you were doing before or have that on your mind. So I would love to hear your answer, Steph, because this is something that I am working on very heavily.
So my answer, I feel like, hi, John. So I feel like that is a work in progress, and it is absolutely something that you have to work on. And I feel like we talked about this last time on our meditation one, where sometimes we're in the middle of, or in the act of meditation, we're thinking about all these things, and like being able to pause our thoughts and truly one with ourselves. And I don't think that it has to be something where all your thoughts are gone of what you have to do, but focus back to that care. And I think that's something that meditation has actually taught me. And we talked about on our meditation live how that one time that John had us meditate for 30 days, at first I wasn't super thrilled about it, but I had downloaded this Calm app, and that was something that she said on there is, as you're thinking about it, yes, it is normal for your mind to drift and think about the things you should be doing or are going to be doing. But we just talked about the fact that when we self-care, when we're feeling refreshed, when we're feeling better, we show up better. So instead of being so worried, about the things that we have to get done, can you think about, this is for that. This is so I can show up better, and bringing your focus right back to that meditation or whatever it is that you're doing for self-care. And I do think it's a work in progress, but I think as soon as you bring your focus back, your focus is going to increase and increase and increase. And that's something that I've been working on a lot with, specifically with meditation. But I mean, depending on what you do for self-care, letting yourself have fun and taking the selfishness out of that. It's not selfish because you're doing it to show up as your better you. So
right. I definitely agree with that. I think definitely meditation is something that helps with that. And I actually listened to one meditation once that said, picture yourself sitting at your desk, whatever your workspace is, and all these thoughts you have about what you need to get done, put them in the drawer of your desk and close it. Ooh. And know that those thoughts will be there when you come back to work. Because something I really struggled with was, I just thought of another thing to do. If I don't write it down right now, I'm going to forget to do it, and it's not going to get done. No, because guess what? It's probably already on 5 of my to-do lists. But just closing the drawer of those thoughts and allowing to let them go. And if more thoughts come by, don't force them out, but just let them pass. And she said, and just tell yourself, oh, that's a thought. And that's something that has stuck with me so hard. Now, whenever I'm meditating and I'm having trouble quieting my mind, or even if it's just throughout the day and I feel like really chaotic in my mind, I don't push the thoughts out, but I kind of just watch them go by, and I literally just think the word thoughts, thoughts. Like every time my mind is crowded, I'm like, thoughts. And it's something that has really worked for me to be able to fixate on that and just let them go by. And just know that, yes, like you said, taking this moment, stepping away from those thoughts is so I can actually show up and do something with those thoughts. So it's more than just thoughts in my head, but something that I can go do. And that's why I'm taking this moment of break. Yes. But definitely something that's a work in progress. I listened to a 30-minute guided meditation yesterday and did not meditate at all, could not stop thinking about everything I needed to do. I ended up stopping it early and I just went back to work. So I think that's also an aspect of self-care is, like you said earlier, Steph, meeting yourself where you're at and understanding where you are and understanding that maybe you're out with friends, but you're still really thinking about those trades that you took earlier and knowing that that's okay, but working to grow through that, to be able to separate the time, to be able to be fully present in the moment and just loving yourself along the way.
Yes. And I feel like if you can't love yourself along the way, you're not going to be very pleasant along the way either. And I like the way Dimes worded that. She said, power of self-talk, redirecting your thoughts to why you're doing self-care instead of being overwhelmed. And I think that is the importance of self-care, is not feeling that overwhelmed feeling, not feeling that anxious feeling of I should be doing this, I should be doing that, or all these things, because every single day we're working to be better selves, our better selves.
Right.
And if you're not working to be your better self, then I don't know what you're doing.
Then I don't know about that. Go listen to all of our lives. And then...
Yeah. And if it's if that stuff doesn't resonate for you, then this isn't the live for you. I don't know if that's bad to say, but a moment full of thoughts.
Yeah.
But I know you were going to go into something else, so go ahead.
Oh, yes. So, y'all know I am a science person, and I love science and the evidence behind why things are the way they are. I really see the power in spiritual and emotional things, but I love to learn about how those spiritual and emotional things are actually backed by science. So I did a little bit of research about some of the biological benefits of different acts of self-care. And the first one is fun. And, you know, that could be whatever fun is to you. Maybe fun is, yes, Dimes, science nerds. Maybe fun is getting your nails done. Maybe fun is a night out with your friends. Maybe fun is reading a book. That's fun for me. So whatever that fun is, taking the time to do that increases your serotonin, which we all know is one of the strongest neurochemicals related to your mood. And also, serotonin also helps improve sleep and memory. So literally, if you're having a hard time, like learning whatever it is you're trying to learn or whatever you're focusing on, go have some fun and then come back. And I actually had a professor in college that would have like a quick little trivia in the middle of the class about something completely not related to the class at all. And it was just a moment to like have fun and get energy up. And I did so good in that class because I always knew there was going to be this fun thing in the middle. So I would pay attention better at the beginning. And then afterwards, it would be even more, I had even more focus and I would be able to remember everything in that class. I barely had to study because the class was so good. And yes, exactly. It also increases your dopamine, and having fun decreases your cortisol, which is your hormone in charge of, it's a weird way to say it, your hormone that regulates stress. When you have high levels of cortisol, you're very stressed out. So having that moment to have fun can help reduce that, and it boosts your energy, improves your concentration, and all these other positive things. But one note I have about that is I think we need to be mindful of the type of fun we're having. Because is that fun providing us this moment of self-care so we can show up as our best self later? Or is this fun that's actually detrimental to us? Is it just a night out with friends for dinner and a drink so we can still do what we need to tomorrow? Or are we going out partying all night so actually our serotonin's going to be decreased because that's what alcohol does, and we can't even do our work tomorrow? You know, it's like finding that balance of, yes, having fun, but making sure it's something that will truly be a benefit to yourself now and your future self.
Yes. I actually love that you said that, because one of the things we were talking about before this, when we were talking about fun, I was like, well, what kind of fun? But also something that just briefly touched my mind since I see the dopamine comments. Do you think that change in perspective is also a form of self-care? Because the reason I ask that is almost changing your mind. And I think this is more not if you have a job, it's more like as an entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur, you get to decide how you do your work. As an entrepreneur, you get to decide when you do your work. So can you get excited about your work to still have little things like that where you're maybe taking a break to do something fun? And can work be fun still? Do you hear my nephew?
I do hear him.
I'm in his closet.
He's like, what are you doing in there?
I'm coming, Jomar. Give me a second. But I don't know. Like, is that something that you think could be shifted to where you're still? I think sometimes we look at work because is it really work? But we look at these things as, oh, I have to do this, or I have to get this done.
I was just about to say that.
Looking at it like, I get to do this. This is fun. If not this, what would I be doing? Would I be at a 9-to-5 job?
And would that be more fun than this? Probably not.
Exactly. And having that shift, because I mean, there's been plenty of times where I've had fun at a job like work, but can this be more fun than that?
Right. Right. And I think definitely shifting your perspective can do that. And I do think that is a form of self-care. Also, yes, fulfillment. I had something written down about fulfillment, but I can't find it. But exactly. Making it fun because feeling fulfilled from what you're doing. So, yes, changing perspective to, I get to do this and this is fun, but maybe you are doing something within your workday that you can shift your perspective all you want, but you don't love it, right? We have to do some stuff we don't love. We can do our best to change our mind and tell us that we love it, but sometimes we don't love everything we have to do. So is there a way that you can bring a fun moment to it? Just like my professor did in that class by having this trivia in the middle. The trivia had nothing to do with the class, but it still brought a moment of fun. And I feel like that is definitely a way that, we can just keep showing up as our best self.
The last thing I want to touch on, we were talking about back to the dopamine thing. And I think I had briefly told you this as well, or I can't remember if this was from a conversation that we had or a podcast, which I feel like is not the worst thing, but I also think self-care, we talked about meeting yourself where you're at, but also meeting your work where you're at, and not overworking yourself and showing where you're at. Because when we talk about that to-do list that we often tend to talk about, a to-do list can be extremely helpful to your work and your productivity, but it can also be detrimental to it, because yes, we can get that dopamine boost when we cross off that, yes, I got this done, yes, I got that done. But if we're over putting stuff on our to-do list, if we're prioritizing everything the same, we're not crossing those things off, then what? Now are you thinking, how many times do you think, oh, I suck, or I didn't get this done, or like, ooh, this is bad because I didn't do this. And now it's almost the opposite. I don't know if that increase, like what levels of anything that would increase, but now you're thinking all these negative things versus having that positive reaction. So
yeah, absolutely. That would probably increase your cortisol, which increases your stress. So yeah, definitely, it all comes back to self-awareness too. Being aware, like you said, about where you're at, where your work's at, what you need to prioritize. And that's where I think even prioritizing the different types of self-care. Um, where are you at right now? Like me, I know one of my biggest self-care priority right now is making sure I'm eating enough. Maybe you're good on everything physical, but maybe you aren't going to spend any time with friends, or maybe you're spending too much time with friends, you're not spending enough time by yourself, focusing on the emotional type of self-care. So I think it really comes down to, doing a little bit of all of it and figuring out what it is that you need for yourself right then and for your future self.
I love that.
Yeah.
With all of that being said, we are nearing our hour mark. So is there any last point that you want to go ahead and bring up, or even if anybody in the chat has any last questions before we go ahead and end this live?
Yes, definitely drop a question or any points if anyone in the chat wants to bring that up. But my last point is relating back again self-care to how we might care for others. Because I had written in my notes that if a friend calls us and they're struggling, something happened that day, whatever it is, they really need your help, you're probably going to drop whatever it is that you're doing to go help your friend. Right? I'm just going to assume that you are a great friend. If you're listening to this, I'm going to assume you're a great friend. And if your friend calls you and they really need you, you're going to drop what you're doing and you're going to go help them right away. Doesn't matter if you're in the middle of the workday, doesn't matter what you're doing, you're going to go help them. But if you yourself are in that moment of need, do you pause everything to help yourself?
Wow.
And if you don't, can you start doing that more? Which I think we all definitely can. And honestly, I feel really inspired after this to do that more for myself and to really listen to what it is that I need.
Yes, and as you were talking about stopping what you're doing for others and good friends, I briefly thought about Nat had reached out to me, and I feel like oftentimes, and I think this is more if you are aware, but have you ever reached out to somebody and been like, hey, I have, and actually I asked, but I know you have because you've done it for me. Hey, I really need a vent about this, but are you in the space to receive? And you've done that for me. Nat has also done that for me. And I think it's also being, we talk about meeting ourselves where we're at, but also, are you ready to do this? Are you ready to receive? Being able to stop everything for yourself, like you were saying, and understanding if you're ready or not ready. I think sometimes we go into our days and aren't quite like how you're talking about just jumping into your laptop. Were you ready for that?
Exactly. And I wasn't. And that might be why, it didn't work out the best. Dime said, talking about neurotransmitters, even the love hormone, oxytocin, plays a part in this too. Like, all of them go hand in hand when it comes to this topic. Exactly. I feel like when you do different acts of self-care, literally every single good hormone and good neurotransmitter increases, and every single negative one decreases. So let's go out there and care for ourselves more. Yes,
I love that so much. Self-care, the missing piece, literally.
Exactly, it really is. But a quick question. Hi, Elena. Thanks for joining. What do you guys do when you want to have fun? This is a fun way to end it, actually. Steph, what's your favorite thing to do for fun?
Oh, I feel like there's so many. I feel like, so I genuinely enjoy going to the gym, and I enjoy that for fun. And as we started talking about this topic, I'm like, why don't I purposely do that more? Not that I used to go, that's a whole nother topic, but I do genuinely enjoy the gym and yoga, but I also enjoy hanging out with family and friends. I think that is one of the biggest things. And sometimes I just enjoy having time to not even think about anything and while I don't sit here and indulge in Netflix for hours and hours and hours at a time, I do like taking some time out for like Netflix or even some kind of, I love documentaries, things like that. I do still like to go out for the occasional drink, but I feel like I've definitely turned away from drinking as much because, like Stacey said earlier, is that actually bringing down everything else, and what does your next day look like? So I do still enjoy going out a lot, but I feel like I've cut down on the drinking a lot. So
nice. Yeah, same here. I have definitely cut down on the drinking to where I used to be. But I definitely still love going out for the occasional drink or two and for dinner, which living in LA, restaurants have been closed for like this last year, and they just recently reopened for outdoor dining. So one of my favorite things to do actually is to go out to a restaurant I've never been to before and have a nice meal and a nice cute little drink. That's one of my favorite things to do. Also, reading or watching TV, but I actually prefer to read. But reading like a novel. I love reading different types of books to learn things too, but I love reading novels because it's the same type of thing as a movie, to kind of escape your reality and get into it. And I also love going on hikes and just driving through the mountains in California. I feel like since I've moved out here, it's definitely made me even more of an outdoors person. And my favorite thing is literally just anything outside, which is a really great form of fun too, because then you get a lot of different benefits from the fresh air and the sun.
Ooh, the one that I should have 100% added in there. And the dog park. I don't know how I missed the dog park, but the dog park is like one of the top 3.
I love it.
But yeah, those are some, and I do love reading. Now, my problem with reading, for fun is that I get so wrapped up in it that I literally will not stop reading.
I can definitely relate, but I love it. I literally love books.
Let me see. Is there anything else? Love you too, Dimes. Thank you for being consistently on here. And thank you everybody else for being consistently on here. We appreciate you guys more than you know. So if that's all, as always, thank you, Stacey. Thank you, everybody who hopped on today. Thank you for everybody who was interactive. We love seeing you guys. Super appreciative, always.
Yes, definitely. And thank you, Steph, for hopping on here every week with me and making it work, no matter where we are. I know last week I was like in the car. This week you're in a closet. But hey, we're here, and I really love being here. And I love all of you who hop on when we're live and who tune in and listen after. It really means a lot because we're all growing through this life together. So just so much gratitude tonight. And I hope everyone has a great night. And take a moment for yourself tonight. Let's do some self-care tonight. Ooh, Steph, to end it off, what self-care are you planning on doing tonight?
Ooh, so actually, as you were talking about yoga, I was like, ooh, I really just want to take, even if it's a short yoga practice, I really am going to take some time to even if it's a 20-minute yoga practice. I'm just going to go ahead and do some yoga. What about you?
Yes, I am going to make a delicious dinner.
Yeah.
And eat all of it. And I am also going to do a face mask tonight.
Ooh, I love that. Well, enjoy your night.
Thank you. And you too. I'll see you next week.
I'll see you next week. See you guys next week. Thank you for being on.
Bye.
Good night.